People inspire innovation. Innovation secures tomorrow. A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this special podcast session as part of the international conference. This podcast today highlights a voice that is actively shaping education, leadership, and technology enabled systems across the globe. Today, we are delighted to host a distinguished academic leader whose work sits at the intersection of business, IT, and engineering management education. It is my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Cassandra Elrod, who serves as the department chair of the Department of Business and IT at Missouri University of Science and Technology, USA. She's a bridge builder between the tradition and transformation. Dr. Casey not just manages a department, but she is the architect of the future of business innovation. With the 2 decades of devotion to higher education, she is the steady hand guiding the integration of innovation and economic development. She is the author of the impactful scholarly work including Management Information Systems Education, a Systematic Review. With her extensive experience in engineering management education in the United States, academic leadership, and curriculum innovation, Dr. Elrod brings valuable insights that strongly align with this conference's theme. So let's welcome Dr. Cassandra with a huge round of applause.
Thank you.
Namaste and a very warm welcome, ma'am.
Thank you.
It is an absolute honor that you have joined us today. So let's start this podcast by asking you the question, what made you choose the field of engineering management?
That's a really interesting question. It is. So my initial intent when I studied in high school, I loved accounting. We were talking with someone the other day that accounting kind of makes sense. It's a procedure, you do it, it works. And so I actually had intended to go to accounting school, and I chose to go to Missouri S&T for some personal reasons for a couple of years. It was the University of Missouri-Rolla back then. And I got distracted with engineering management then, because in those days it was the closest thing that that university had to offer. Okay. And I decided that, I had to take 2 years of basic engineering like every other engineering student, and I decided I did not love it. I did not like mundane CAD systems and drawing. I liked the creative part. Yes. And so I also like people. And so the management part, we have a joke, that what do you call a introverted engineer? Somebody that looks at their own shoes, and an extroverted one might look at your shoes. And so I like people, and I wanted to try to make a difference in bridging that gap between engineering and business and the innovation impact of the world.
Right, okay. So you have been a part of the Missouri S&T since 2008, and you serve as a department chair. So what is your perspective on engineering management education? How has it evolved over the years?
Oh boy. Well, engineering management encompasses a lot of things, and it used to be a lot of automation, a lot of supply chain, industrial engineering, logistics, those sorts of things. And I think, as technology grows in anything, automation has replaced a lot of human. Yes. And anytime we get people involved, the messier things go, right? Yes. More human error. And so I think engineering management education has changed a lot. The foundations of engineering are not going to change. Gravity still works. Yeah. Things that are still foundational. But I think being adaptable and being able to innovate and see out beyond, because the engineering management people are the ones that are building the future of processes and making things better. Yes. As our previous talking about people being able to get into a queue. They're designing those queuing systems and efficiencies. So I think how it's changed is just changing with the pace of the business world and being able to provide things faster, because the business market's getting more competitive. Yes, people want things faster. Yes. And higher quality.
Right. So, the next question is that in the United States, how is engineering management typically positioned differently from the traditional engineering or the MBA programs? Like in India, we see that we have different, traditional programs for engineering and MBA. But what about US?
I get asked this question a lot, actually, because my education is from engineering management, and the MBA program at Missouri S&T sits in my department. And so sometimes I get pulled in when there's an engineering undergraduate student that says, do I want to get my master's in engineering management or do I want to go get the MBA? And my answer, first and foremost, is always, well, it depends what you want to do. And so if you want to be deeper into still the engineering principles and a plant manager, hands-on in those activities, go do your master's in engineering management. If you want to be more at the strategy level, in the people management level, in figuring out what is the next competitive advantage, go study the MBA program because it's a bigger picture. Engineering trains you to think very deeply in a specific area. The MBA teaches you to think very broadly about all the things that might encompass that. So you have to be a bigger picture thinker.
Right. So what teaching or learning methods are commonly emphasized in US engineering management program?
Teaching methods. Well, our university as a whole has an experiential learning requirement for graduation. And so sometimes that could be an internship or a co-op or something like that. Sometimes it's a design team. We have a lot of design teams, and so encouraging students, teaching not just inside the classroom, but what they're doing externally with industry and companies. To our speaker's point earlier, students don't want to hear it from a professor. They want to hear it from an industry person. And so I think it's really critical bringing in outside speakers and guests and remaining with that hands-on. It's really hard to keep students' attention today.
Absolutely.
And so I think being engaging is important, and creating real-world problems for them to work on helps them see the value in actually trying and maybe not just using AI for their studies.
Yes. So as we say that today is the word of the AI and students have started using it. So how do you find that the students' mentality is changing? They don't want to go to classes. They just want to sit at home and, read through AI. So what is the biggest drawback of that? Do you think that AI is, motivating, students to study more or explore more? Or is it, killing the creativity of students to think something different?
I think the short answer is both. And I think there has always been unmotivated students, and I don't think that will ever go away. And there's always the exceptional students who want to learn everything they can. Sometimes I have to talk them out of doing things the hardest way possible and doing everything on their own. And so I think really it's going to be about learning where to focus your efforts. And I don't want to say that some things are more important than others, but there are some things that creativity and your own input is more important. And some things don't matter that much. And so I think it's a matter of working smarter, not harder. And I think the trick is knowing when to do which of those things. When do you use AI? When do you do it on your own? When do you just use it as a helping hand? As far as students coming to class, I don't think AI makes much of a difference on that. I think that we have a lot of students, I know everybody's tired of talking about the pandemic, but it did happen. And it sent students home, and they realized that they don't have to come to class. Here again, it's a matter of learning styles. I have students that never want to set foot in a classroom, and I have ones that are the first one in the first row every day. And so I don't think that's really changed. It's just forced the issue a little bit.
Right. So from your experience, what are the biggest challenges that, the different departments, in the academic institution, they face, when it comes to updating the curricula? So what is the challenges, that a department faces?
Just constant change. Industry demands. I think it's really important. My particular department, we have a corporate advisory board full of top-tier level industry professionals, and we call them in twice a year. And they go through our curriculum with a fine-tooth comb, and they're like, you need to be teaching sales, you need to be teaching product development, you need to be teaching no-code, low-code. These things, they tell us what they're looking to hire. And the struggle with doing that is staying current, is it requires the faculty to learn a whole new skill set sometimes.
Absolutely.
And then redo their entire curriculum. And so those of us that, have taught the same class for 20 years, it's hard to start over sometimes.
Yes. And what about the faculty members? How do they update themselves so that, they can at least, match the level of the students who are, in today's world, they're using AI? How the faculty members manage? How
They're
do
doing
they update?
exactly what we're doing right here. They go, they talk with their peers, they network. We have a lot of peer institutions, and conferences help a lot because people are sharing, because we're all in this together.
Yes.
And so while in some viewpoints we're competitors, institution to institution, we're still colleagues, and we still have the best.
So, as a department chair, how do you balance the academic leadership along with the innovation, faculty development, and the students' outcome?
Well, I think it's alignment is probably the trick to that. If your faculty are being innovative and your curriculum is designed well into the innovation, your student outcomes should follow.
Yeah.
So I think it should be a flow through. And so I think you have to go back to the beginning.
Yes.
Well, you kind of have to work backwards. You have to figure out what it is student outcomes should be
Yes.
to get a job, right? Because most students go to school and they want a job when they get out. And so then you have to work backwards and say, okay, well, there's the goal. That's where we're going. Now, how do we get there? And so you work backwards and start with asking your faculty, because most of us are pretty crafty and we're creative.
Right.
And so I think it's just keeping that in alignment.
All right. And you are an inspiration to many of the students, I'm sure. But then, who is your inspiration? What motivates you? Who motivates you?
Oh, boy. Well, to go to college initially I was a first generation college student. And so my initial motivation to go to university was my dad told me I was going. That was the motivation.
Right.
Whenever I was almost done with my undergraduate studies, I got called into the department chair's office one day, which back then that didn't happen. That was like getting called to the principal's office.
Yes.
And I was, oh man, what have I done? And there was assistant chairs, associate chairs, the chairs sitting around the room, and they said, hey, Cassie, we want to give you a full ride to graduate school to get your master's and PhD.
Okay.
I had no intentions of doing that, but it was an opportunity that fell in my lap, and I didn't know if I could do it.
Right.
And so I decided that I was going to try. And fortunately, I was successful. And so the things that motivate me now, because I got to tell you, the political climate, the academic climate, the challenges that we face as an economy worldwide, sometimes that can get you down. And so I think what motivates me more than anything now is focus on the students, because they're our future. They're the ones that are going to be taking care of us when we get old.
Yes.
And they're the ones that are going to be taking care of the planet in the future and all the problems we have. So I think whenever I get frustrated and down, that's my grounding force as I go back to what is best for the students.
Right. So what leadership skills do you think that the future engineering managers should learn?
Good
What are some
leadership skills?
leadership skills? Yes.
I think one thing that is critical in being a good leader is the ability to be quiet and listen. And listen with the intent to understand and not to respond.
Absolutely.
And I think it's really important. I see, especially in the engineering field, they're fixers, they're problem solvers. They want to design and create and fix it. And sometimes it doesn't need to be that. And so I think as a leader, you have to know when to offer help and solutions and when to offer just support.
Yes.
And so I think good listening skills and response skills are probably the number one thing.
Definitely. Right. So my last question for today, that is, what advice you would like to give to our management students who are sitting right here? What advice you would like to give them?
I think learn people skills. Somebody mentioned earlier that we don't necessarily teach good communication skills, in particularly nonverbal communication. And I teach our freshman class, and that's one of the things I work on them, is as a society, we have headphones in, We have our phone in our hand. We hide behind screens. We've lost a lot of human connection. And so I challenge my students. I said, I don't care if you're an introvert. We hide behind, I'm an introvert. I can't do people. Yes, you can. It's harder for you than an extrovert, but you can do it.
Yes.
And so I challenge my students to go make a connection. I force them to network with each other. I make them write a paper. You have to go interview 3 of your classmates. Go get a cup of coffee. Come back and tell me something meaningful about them. And the overwhelming response is, I made a friend today. And this person's going to be my battle buddy all through undergraduate school. They're probably going to know each other when they go to industry. And to create those networks now, while you're in school, nothing is unimportant.
Yes.
And I think nonverbal communication skills, walk around, have a pleasant look on your face. Say hi to someone in the store. It costs you nothing to be pleasant, to look at someone and give them a hello. And so I think as managers, you have to stay approachable. As a manager, you will be so busy and so overwhelmed. And don't be a manager if you don't like being interrupted every 15 seconds. If you're the person that likes to just get into a project and hang in there and work on something for hours at a time, don't be a manager. We have this notion that we have to climb the ladder, right? We have to have the next promotion and the next job and be a manager. Some people aren't good at it, and that's okay. You're good at something else. So try to find the alignment in your career and be approachable. People should want to come to you and talk to you. I personally think that that's one of the critical things. You don't necessarily have to know how to fix all their problems. You just have to be able to provide resources and remove barriers so that sometimes people can fix their own problems.
Well, thank you so much. So as we come to the end of this podcast session, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to Dr. Cassandra Elrod for sharing her valuable insights and her wisdom with all of us today. We hope that this session will inspire new ideas, collaborations, and conversations beyond this conference. Thank you once again, ma'am. Let's have a huge round of applause for Dr. Cassandra. And I would like to end this podcast by saying that innovation led by people is the only growth model that truly lasts. Thank you so much.